You know who made it.
Hello again, and welcome to 3reate. I'm your host, Andrew Newman. 3reate features two types of episodes in a single feed, weekly and interviews. Each week, Nathan and I discuss current trends, our projects, and whatever else is on our minds. We'll also bring you fortnightly episodes where I interview folks across art, science, and technology, where we dive into their stories and get to the heart of how creativity drives them. Today we're joined with Annie and Robin. It's the first time on 3reate we've had two folks at the same time. Where does this podcast find you, Annie?
This finds me just at my home office here in San Francisco.
How about you, Robin?
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. And I am in Mill Valley, California, which is just north of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Bay Area.
Bay Area.
I am on the hat of Oregon, which is the hat of California. And I like to remind you all of that.
So are we the face or the body?
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe Oregon's the head, California's the body, and then Washington's the hat. I don't know. Thanks for joining. I kind of want to kick off. There was an article you both wrote on what I'll call SEO for AI. And I found it really interesting for folks who maybe don't know what SEO is. That's search engine optimization. It was a big deal in the 90s and 2000s, which was how you got into Google and how you got web results. I'd say it's still a big deal if you want any sort of presence, if you want to be discovered, even on social media. You'll hear Instagram optimization or Google or YouTube or that kind of stuff. But I don't think a lot of folks are really thinking about AI. And if you have products on AI, like how do you get into a ChatGPT or a Gemini or an Anthropic or a Llama or something like that? So the way that these models are trained is on the corpus of all digital human information and then some. But at the same time, the companies are starting to add in web searching and the ability to pull external information that's not necessarily part of the training data. So I think it's getting a lot more complicated. And people still aren't ready for it yet because they don't know about it. So I guess maybe one of you, if you want to just walk us through that a little bit and maybe why it's important, but also what folks might be able to do.
Yeah, this is a huge area. And just a quick background, why we're interested in this area is we both have a really long history in retail and e-commerce and things like that. And being discoverable from the greater internet has been part of our career experience. And this is now an evolution to that. And even I have a long merchandising background too, being discoverable within a site has been very important and really guiding users to what our recommendations are, and then eventually for business purposes, for purchase and repurchase and all of those things. With this particular topic, both of us had been talking from a retail standpoint and an e-commerce and information standpoint, what is changing. And both of us are not new to AI. Both of us have a lot of AI experience in both of our industries and experience, but it's really like we wanted to learn too. And so we want to learn and be immersed in it as much as possible. Writing this article was helping us learn how this is happening and how this is changing. And it changes every day too.
The best way to learn is to teach somebody else, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
True.
So I'm going to hand it off to Robin here.
Just as Annie said, we both have e-commerce experience and also product experience. And having worked through the aughts and the 10s and now the 20s, right? We grew up in our careers as search is survival, right? You're dependent on being discoverable in a Google search query to survive. And the paradigm is now shifting with like the GPTs, right? So if you're using Anthropic or Perplexity or ChatGPT, whichever, pick your poison, when you're talking and you're asking for advice, you'll get an answer overview. And those answer overviews tend to be very or highly specific in terms of buy this bike. Use evite.com to create invitations. Right. And so that was a big aha moment for us in terms of, instead of having that blue list and the sponsored ads and choice, you are given a pretty strong recommendation. And how people shop is changing.
Perplexity, for folks aren't in the know, is, I guess, an AI first search engine where they're using AI to help search, but they're also enriching that search experience. So instead of just giving you a page of links that you go to, it'll coach you along as you ask more questions or try to get more information. It'll bring additional information or context into that, which might be additional products. It might be a product. Where's the best place to go on a holiday? I'd rather go somewhere warm. Oh, why don't you go to Hawaii? Those kind of things. The product recommendation thing is interesting. And like Google for a long time was really foothold in obviously search and really resistant. But even now, like the first result you get most of the time on Google is an AI response, right? And so I think like how they get that is still a little bit murky. But I think a lot of the same approaches that you would take on the web are adaptable to the AI. And then there's a whole nother frontier as they're training models and getting into the corpus. So if I'm a retailer or if I have a presence out there and I'm now really scared because I just found out that there's this whole technology that I keep hearing about that I hadn't really put together, I need to be interested in. Do you have any tips to like even get started? Like obviously we'll link to your article, which I think was a pretty good overview and a good first start.
Yeah. I think one of our top things is keep doing what you're doing. That is for SEO and for accessibility and things like those are all really important ways to give context to these engines that are looking for data to feed their prompts and their questions. Number 2 is really start to put more content on your site that really speaks to your products more specifically. A lot of times businesses in the past were focused on the 80-20. Here you can really meet the 20 or just really strengthen your best products and make sure that you are the market leader, that you seem like the market leader for that product with a lot of how-tos and videos and FAQs. New content is important. And it's easier now these days with other AI tools.
I also have AI write all my AI content.
Well,
Exactly.
kind of. I think that Andy's hitting on that's really important to underline are that the models are looking for authority.
Yep.
They really want to make sure. And so they're not just looking online, they're really looking for trustworthy brands. Yeah. So if you're a brand manager, this is probably a great moment in time for you. But I think we're kind of like going backwards a little bit in terms of really video, like Andy was talking about. Are you on YouTube? How do customers comment? How are customers reacting to your brand? And then also really buckling down to get that content strategy nailed with updates every 3 to 6 months. So those are the best practices today. And there are tons of free webinars out there you can go to. I've seen in real time an example where a company was able to get a brand that wasn't showing up to show up pretty quickly just by following some of these best practices. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Before the show, AI'd myself. I don't know what the term is, right? I used to be Google myself. Yeah. And I would recommend any business owner, or if you're trying to build a personal brand or influence or whatever, go in. All the AI programs have a free trial or a free with an account. And I just asked it, what is 3reate? What is this podcast? And I was really surprised, Robyn, you nailed it. It came and it got most of, I think, the information from the website, but then it was like cross-referenced by Apple, by Spotify, by iHeartRadio, YouTube, because the podcast is on all these other platforms. It obviously picks those as authorities for better or worse, but then it collaborated that evidence. And then I started digging down deeper. And I think there's been a lot of AI skepticism, especially as of late. And AI is really good at what it's good for, but it's not good at everything, and it's not magic. I noticed that neither one of you said I should use AI to make my AI content. Should I not be using AI to make my AI content?
So remember keyword stuffing? So
with a million keywords on everything. Like they see that on Amazon every once in a while too.
Right. But then people figured out, Google figured it out, and then they started punishing you for that. And so that all the SEO managers were running around, okay, we're not keyword stuffing anymore. So you want to just, again, probably not only use AI to create your AI content. I think that it would help you, especially any brand that has a lot of content, where you want to lean into a really great content strategist, someone to help you figure out what is the message, soup to nuts across all landscapes, all media landscapes, and then how do we update that? And I think that AI can help you, because updating a lot of web pages, for example, every 3 to 6 months, it's a lot of work. I think it's a great example of using AI to help you automate that process.
Yeah, no, we're big proponents of human in the loop, because at the end of the day, and this AI, and this kind of goes to the general, more sociological, like business future, where AI and agents are part of the team, not like taking over for something like a content strategist. And what is where you're also going to allocate resources too, because it's time is money and attention is money and all of those things. Yeah, you can rely on an AI to do things, but they also need to be managed too. Like the trust factor, and that they're maintaining consistency and brand voice and brand representation and the intention that you actually, because you have the relationship with the customers. And well, tomorrow the customers will be both agents and people too. Yes. This is a whole other thing. But for right now, it is a part of the team aspect and a part of the workload management.
And it sounds like too, as your brand or content strategizing, that you obviously need to know the customer. That's just how it works. And I think you made an important point when it's to the agents. It's almost like SEO doesn't change, but it changes radically in trying to work with the agents or work with these AI companies to get your content in ways that a non-deterministic model, which is what most of this AI is, can interpret. And so it's providing that context. And I think the thing I hear a lot, everyone's jobs are going away and AI is going to take over the world. It's all bullshit. I think what you're hitting on is like the human in the loop is absolutely critical. And what we're seeing, and I think we're in the very early stages of AI rollout, but we're also in the very early stages of people figuring out, oops, we fired the marketing team, but the AI content isn't producing the results that we thought it was. So we saved some money maybe on people's salaries and whatnot, but we're dropping sales, or our brand recognition is dropping, or our page ranks are going down, or we're not showing up in chat as I'm frantically, the CEO of my company, scrambling to figure out what these people are talking about. But AI can also really help you, and Robyn, as you were saying, with the strategy. And I think the number one thing for me and why people still matter, AI will give you either the most probabilistic output, so what is the most similar thing to what you're asking, or it'll give you some statistically non-correlated response, which is pretty much useless because anyone can sit there. It's like the idea person, right? Everyone has an idea. It's really easy to have an idea. Going and executing on that idea, making that idea happen, validating that idea, making sure it's the right idea. That's all. AI doesn't really do that. It can give you a basic marketing plan. It can give you a basic social media post. I will say the things that I've come up organically with in my own mind, or talking with friends, other people in the industry, that content still does way better than anything AI has helped with. Yeah. So I have to lament this point so much because it's still for so many people such a new magic technology. And it is magic to some extent, but it's one of the most overhyped and oversold things that I've ever encountered in my life. And I lived through the 2000s, right? Like petfood.com, going to revolutionize your pet food.
We were talking, Robyn and I, about the transitions between analog and the internet, the new AI kind of generation or whatever time frame that we're moving to right now. And the thing about analog to the internet, there was a paradigm that was very similar to analog. Internet was yellow pages. Internet was walking into a store where I could go down aisles and find this thing. And then the paradigm was so similar to what is available today. Even mobile was just a different version of that, more usable. And this is the AI kind of whole new paradigm is something different because the AI UX or AX as it's calling, but it's a whole new UX because it's talking and it's trying to go back and forth, and people are historically bad at describing things. And customer support interactions, the person never can describe their problem. I shouldn't say never, but it's few and far between where what they say is actually what they need help with and what actually solves their problem.
Customers are notorious for not telling you exactly what they want, and also thinking that they're telling you exactly what they want at the same time. Yeah, that's a good point too. As SEO is changing with AI, a lot of those fundamentals haven't changed, and it's just really adapting. And to your point, how do you interact with this stuff? Right now, the number one way that most people see it is like a chat interface, and as a recovering product person, it kills me because it's the worst possible, laziest design ever. And the companies that I do see using this and getting the most benefit at the platform level, and as the product and design teams are evolving, again, I hear we're going to get rid of product managers, we're going to get rid of designers, and engineers are just going to use AI and develop the world's greatest products. And then it turns out...
Or designers are just going to get rid of engineers.
Yeah, that's the other... Everyone's going to vibe code everything.
Yes.
And maybe I need to do a podcast on why are we so excited to get rid of everyone?
Yeah, I know. And I think it's funny that everyone thinks they're getting rid of everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Designers think they're getting rid of engineers. Product managers think they're getting rid of designers. Engineers
I would
think they're
choose to
getting
get rid of the
everybody.
engineers as a product manager, personally. I'd much rather work with the designers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if there were a bunch of engineers, I'd probably be saying that.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
How are you designing for stuff, and how are you running product in this world where it feels like it's far more complicated than it's ever been because there's so much pressure to incorporate AI, but just like every other technology, maybe you don't need AI. And a lot of times when I'm talking with people, they're like, we need AI. Why?
Yep.
What are you trying to solve? Oh, actually, So what are you seeing? How has this evolved in the last, even 6 months has been the end of the PRD, the end of the PM, the end of design. You're just going to Figma with AI and then it's going to work magically.
But it doesn't. I think that everything changes day by day. So even 6 months seems like so long ago. The answer is nobody really knows. And I know the methodology of this is questioned thoroughly. I don't need to get into it, but the MIT study that said 95% of companies are finding that they're not getting ROI on their AI projects. To me, I think it's just a symptom or just a kind of like sign on the road that says we're jumping, we have to have AI. Where are we as a company in terms of maturation? What is our revenue? What is our goal? If AI is a magic tool, what would it help us accomplish? Really understanding the strategy before you, and understanding your tech stack. And there are a lot of companies that haven't invested in data in ever. So if they're trying to implement AI, it's not going to work. In this like rush to the $1 trillion valuation, people are forgetting to be honest with themselves and really figure out a strategy, and that will help, and train. And who owns it in the company? We don't have AI strategists sitting in every company. So who are we hanging that hat on?
Why do we have so many of them who have no idea what they're talking about? I just saw someone on LinkedIn today with AI strategists in their time. I'm like, what the f does that mean?
Yes, it's a land grab right now.
And to your point, and I can't say this kind of stuff enough, for anyone who's out there thinking, I'll just go to an AI program and type in, give me an AI implementation program. It's going to give you something, right? It's probably going to give you the most deterministic, statistically probable plan. Okay, great. Go do Go do the same thing everyone else is doing. Good luck with that. Let me know how it works. Like with every industry or every field of work, there's a basic amount of stuff you have to do. Like an engineer has to know how to write some code. A designer has to know how to draw straight lines and the basics of design. A product manager needs how to talk to people. What I find a lot in, and especially in a lot of companies, the executives just assume everyone's an idiot and doesn't actually know anything, and that this magic AI program. The reality is they're just biased about what they don't know. And AI is more than happy to continue to feed that. And so as a product person, I can get really fantastic results from AI because I know how to phrase questions or how to ignore pieces of things that aren't valuable. And I can't say this enough to folks, that it is never going to replace people, but it is going to make good people much better. It's going to make mediocre people probably better. They're dangerous because they don't know what they don't know. And the young kids, I'm sorry, you're screwed. Like the entry-level jobs, I think, might be going to AI, but don't give up hope. I don't know what to say.
I think you just see employees scrambling up the value chain. We just have to add more value, and that's the human in the loop, right? And so maybe in the future, we're not designing products as much as we're designing workflows for the AI, things like that. So things will change, but you've got to understand that and have taught yourself and figured it out and experimented and learned. And I think Annie and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday about like the number one skill for the future is learning how to learn, right? And it feels like that's true because it changes so often. You really can't rest on your laurels and feel like you are the AI strategist of the 2025.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing with right now and people experimenting with this and being so used to Google giving results, to have a critical conversation with somebody and critical thinking around the information that is being presented to somebody. I wasn't planning on making this point with this data, but like it's seen Google has grown as an AI player. There's data put out, I think it was this week, around, I think it's called SimilarWeb, that in the last 12 months, Gemini has grown significantly, and ChatGPT, like their dominance on the market has gone down, where other generative AI tools have maintained, because people are so used to using Google. And Google page search in July was shown to be still growing. So people are used to this way of searching and learning and things like that. And there's all these tools added on top, but this whole general shift to AI is not only kind of productivity and in the workplace and things like that, but it's also like a psychological shift too, and a sociological shift, and how people are going to be more productive depends on kind of that learning to learn and what they want out of it. Are their searches turning up value and productive content that is useful, that people just take for granted and they just take it and go with it and run with it? Or an algorithm in TikTok or an algorithm like that, it's just they're consuming? Or are they going to be a participant in this conversation, that these are a different type of conversation? It's not search anymore. It's like this ongoing conversation. People are learning on both sides. The person is learning, the algorithms are learning.
And with all the AI adoption, until we're actually marketing to AI, which is coming, people are still your customer for now.
Yeah.
People are still your customer. And what resonates with people is something typically individualistic or novel to them. And that doesn't change. So if you're just depending on AI, you're just going to be doing the same thing everyone else is doing. That's never been successful in the history of business. The people who are successful in business find an angle somebody else hasn't, and they build value there. And sometimes it's tremendous value, and sometimes it fails or was too early or too late, or there's a number of reasons. And I think it's like business 101. It's funny that, Robyn, you learning how to learn. I couldn't agree with that more. As someone with a degree, and my bachelor's degree is the traditional liberal arts degree, where I learned a bunch of I did not learn what to think. But then I also have an MBA. So I learned business, and I was really told what to think. But I learned a little bit how to think, but it was mostly what to think. And so it's really interesting, because like a core business principle is find people to give you money for value you create, right? Easy. Yeah. 90% of businesses fail. And I would argue the stat that I know the MIT thing is gotten a lot of play, but I would argue 95% of companies can't measure value, let alone the success of something. So of course, nobody's getting value from this, right?
Yeah. So there's that saying that you can spend all the resources you want solving the wrong problem. It's better to spend your time trying and failing at solving the right problem. Right. And so it just seems people really need to slow down and think about, what is the problem? Let's define the problem instead of just throwing, I heard about this tool, no, try this tool. Yeah.
And that's the unsexy part of product development that I find a lot of companies get wrong. And that's why I always love it, because what is the actual problem, or how? You run user groups, focus groups, you do data analysis, you're doing research. There's so much more to it than, I just went to ChatGPT and it said the best thing to raise your presence is get a YouTube channel.
Yeah. And that's that AI adoption barrier today, because it's not that people aren't using, people are refusing to use it too. That is for whatever reason, it's going to take my job. Yeah. We've heard that in various organizations, that, it will take the tedium out of your day so you can do more important things. But a lot of people internalize what this means to them. Oh, it's not going to do it as well as me. It's going to take my job, things like that. And in a lot of ways, this is all this balance between leadership. We got to move forward with AI versus the people going, for whatever reason, resisting this usage. And then the whole idea of what are the guardrails? And I just want to do a quick plug for Women XAI, which Robyn and I have been working with this group, Jenny K. Pollock and Ray Lazo from Women XAI, in our immersion in this whole AI and learning. That's who we wrote the blogs with. And they had a panel a few months ago with a bunch of top women who work at various AI companies. And their top recommendation for AI adoption is just figure out what's the biggest problem that somebody has and go after that. And it is leadership being like having to force this on people, but also that's the only way somebody's going to really move forward and find value of this. And maybe like you said earlier, it might not be solved with AI, but what's the biggest problem or the biggest challenge that a team has or a product has or something like that, and try and solve it with AI and give that team the space to do that. I know it sounds easy, but there's all the challenges of legal and which AI and all of those things. But that is the only way to move forward, is really starting to tackle these problems and not just say, go try it or things like that because of all these hangups.
I would argue that it's because people don't know how to learn. To Robyn's point earlier, go try it. I'm going to say something, and everybody who's used AI at this point, it's failed miserably at something. The AI got you is not hard. It's like talking to a 3-year-old, right? I can fool a 3-year-old really easily. I can fool an adult human really easily too if I try hard enough. That's not an indication that something doesn't work. Correct. You just hit a limit. And I find it absolutely fascinating how many people don't realize that. Annie, as you were talking, I think when you're talking about the leadership and panel, the first thought I had was, I think expertise is going to be in higher demand than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because yes, I can vibe code my app, but when I get 100 customers or 1,000 customers or 1,000,000 customers coming through the door, AI is not helping me anymore. I need to go find someone who knows how to scale.
Yes.
Oh yeah, in a perfect world, I just spend more money and I build more product. But the reality is, if the global supply chain doesn't allow for that, or software development, I need to go hire people to do it. It takes 9 months for somebody to come in the door who's competent. And then it takes them time to figure out what to do. We're also optimistic, seemingly, in 2025 that AI is going to take over the world, and we'll have our perpetual motion machines, first mentioned in Capital, and like what? Adam Smith, 1723? The original idea of capitalism was that it would solve all the problems, and we would have farming robots that would go farm, powered by perpetual motion, which is completely nonsense. But 1700s, this is the hot topic. And here we are, 300 and some years later, AI is going to solve all the problems and do all the work for us. And we'll just sit on the beach and drink Mai Tai. And with every technological revolution, I'm still waiting for it.
Well, it also depends on where the AI, and this is a topic that was brought up the other day, the power, like who owns the power in AI? Yep. If you were given an AI to help you versus like your boss was given an AI.
Yeah. I think another hot take I'll make is that, so expertise will never be more valuable going forward. The managerial layer is the most ripe for AI. Competitive analysis, a good executive knows the industry, knows the players, helps guide the company. Does that mean all executives go away? No. I just said you need to have experience in your vertical. But the reality is we have these weird dependency chains in companies. It was like, I have to grow my team, and then we grow more middle management layer. And I think the middle management layer is ripe for this kind of thing in terms of AI. But it's interesting because it's the executives who lay the people off then who get the most monetary reward. And then they force everybody to use AI to gain the productivity. You don't have to react to that because I know that's a hot take, but I'm on a crusade of hot takes against stupidity on this podcast.
Yeah. Like anything, there will be stupidity, right? There'll be good things. Just as we learn and adjust, people are going to make mistakes. People are going to think. Someone I know has her own UX research consultancy group, and she's had clients say, sorry, we're going to use AI. Like, AI can do this. We don't need you. And so she's learned to just say, okay, great. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Stay in touch.
My price is twice as much in 6 months.
Exactly. Exactly. She's without fail.
Yep.
They come back. My contracts are extended because all of a sudden they realize that we're not there today, and we're not probably going to be there in the next couple of years. So how do we still get work done? Companies still are trying to meet their revenue goals.
And brand damage is real.
Yes.
You can fire the marketing
Disney.
team. Yeah, I know, Disney.
Sorry.
I didn't watch. I'm not a huge Jimmy Kimmel fan, obviously. I guess for folks, we were recording, I think it was, he came back yesterday.
Last night.
I watched a little clip this morning just to see what he would hit. And I did appreciate the joke where he said, Disney wants me to say one thing, and he pulls out of his code and he starts reading, to resubscribe to Disney Plus and Hulu, go to your app. Because one of the big contributing factors to him coming back is a bunch of people canceled their subscription. You can have all sorts of political conversations about this, but the reality is, I frankly, objectively don't think he said anything crazy. Like, he's a comedian.
Yeah.
Maybe the joke doesn't resonate with you. Maybe you're offended. That's your right.
It wasn't a part of the joke.
Yeah, that's comedy. I feel like a lot of people really took it out of proportion. And then this whole big hoop to do, and then Disney fired him, and then they brought him back, and who knows, maybe he made more money. And so I think that's an interesting example of a lot of this like vibe coding I hear all the time. I use AI to write code. I also know how to write code. I did a kind of an experiment with my latest product to just, let's see what AI can do, and I'll just play dumb. pretty good, to be honest. Like it did 99% of the code. I still have to do a lot of the architecture work because it doesn't know. And when I ask it for a solution, it gives it to me, but it doesn't think about security. It doesn't think about how do I scale it. It doesn't think about I have 80 services now that I have to maintain, whereas a good engineer would take all that into account. And maybe you need 80 services, maybe you don't. But it doesn't know what it doesn't know, and it's based on what I ask it, and I don't know what I don't know. It's really easy to ask AI some basic questions that anyone in a marketing field would know. Go get an Instagram and put up a picture on Instagram. You don't need this marketing consultancy because they don't know what they're doing, and you can save yourself the contract. But then you make an oopsie. The way that you have to craft an image is a little bit of a science, but it's a large art. And how does that resonate with people? AI isn't going to be able to tell you that kind of stuff. It's still that human connection.
Right. And there's also consistency is really important, right? Consistency builds trust, and trust is going to be the differentiator. That's the authority, right?
So if I'm using like 3 different fonts on the same page, that's not consistent?
No. Well,
unless you need to, and you're like, I am all for incongruence. Incongruency is my brand.
Yeah.
Just underscoring all of this too is, and really going back to that, like the whole thing around SEO and businesses. These businesses probably have to prove to their funders that they tried this because they're beholden to this, that, or the other thing for funding, and AI is where a lot of that, and because it's an OpEx and CapEx balance for these, and financial fiscal consideration for all these companies. So it's pretty much due diligence in a lot of ways. If it works, it's great, but there also has to be the purpose behind it. I'm not just using AI to use AI. And that's part of the due diligence that they have to represent as well, is we had this goal and we achieved it or didn't achieve it, or we achieved it this much. And that's the whole grace that people are giving themselves, or have to give themselves in this period, which is, it's a change. It's like we were saying earlier, things are changing by the day. And so you don't even know. And these companies are coming out with things by the day, like the browser, the Comet browser, or Google incorporating all of these things. Nano Banana just shot to the top of the App Store yesterday. I know, it's amazing. But it's like really by the day, new things are coming out. If you're striving towards goals, it's also how quickly and what sort of confidence you can get in that what you're testing is actually worked for today, worked for this week, worked well. I didn't have these competitors that worked this season from a retail standpoint. We haven't been through a Christmas with so many users of Gen AI yet that this is going to be a huge learning experience and just blip in everybody's data timelines to be like, okay, Christmas holiday season, whatever you want to call it, is going to be where things are showing this shift, but it's not the end all be all either.
And there's never been so much bullshit. As I see this, artificially generated images in product marketing isn't new, but the amount of crap I see on like Amazon,
6 fingers,
that is just, it's not even like product mock-ups for like placeholder content and selling. If you don't have the product manufacturer to take a picture of it, you might show a rendering. That's not new either, but it's blurred the line so much that I see more and more now that people will buy something and they get like totally different, or it's non-representative. And so I think the trust in a brand and trust in the product has never been more important either.
Yeah.
If anyone who's been alive for more than one cycle of this knows that eventually it'll correct itself. So I would say don't get into it. Continue to hire people. And if AI is the right solution for your problem, great. Cool. I think if you have an AI generated product photo by Christmas or holiday season, I don't think you're doing so hot.
J. Crew just did this. I got tremendous blowback.
What did they do? What is a J. Crew, baby? Is better.
They just used a lot of AI generated content instead of having a photo shoot.
Oh.
So.
Oops.
Yeah. I think they were just trying. Or maybe they used some of it. I don't know all the specific. I don't want to totally crucify them. But they got tremendous blowback for that. Because it's a solid brand, right? It's a trustworthy brand. So.
Yeah, that are known for their very, very curated. That's the whole thing, is that high end, like how does AI create AI image creation or all of that stuff, like graphics creation, work with high end, like luxury? Because we were saying yesterday, you can create suits at scale and sell them for $20. People are going to pay thousands of dollars still for a bespoke suit. And if that is the range you're selling to, everything kind of builds into that mystique and that rarity and so for J. Crew, it could be a bigger hit than something like a Walmart or something.
It's back to know your customer.
Yes. So the customers are upset. They feel like, because it wasn't credited for being digital art.
Oh.
And so they replaced humans. And so the customers are really upset. They thought that was like creative bankruptcy but it also raises a lot of questions around AI, the use of AI, like in advertising. Do they need to say it? So
short answer is yes. Yeah. The e-com thing is interesting. With all this AI marketed stuff, there's AI in toys and stuff now. We're exposing kids to AI in ways that terrify me. Like, remember when I was a kid, like having a video game station was going to destroy your brain and you had to go outside and literally touch grass. Now I like joke like you should touch grass, but I probably should. And like screen time now seems to be just a given. And like when I was a kid, we had like TV, but it was like the weird lame thing your parents did. And maybe you watched like sports or like the holiday movies or whatever. I think you both have kids, right? Do you have any advice for parents or people with children who are trying to buy for children? The AI toys are more interesting potentially because they can do things that other toys can't, or how do you sort through all the AI nonsense when you're trying to get your kid something that, they might like? And like, we've talked about using chat programs in Google, but like with the market being flooded with all this information, do you have any tips for people to try to cut through some of that?
I can start. I have lots of thoughts on this. So my kids are a little bit older. I have a high schooler and one who just started college. So we talk about AI every day, and I have for a couple of years now. I think one of the things as a family we were extremely strict about was screen time. That kind of got destroyed and completely eroded during pandemic. I had a middle schooler and a late elementary school at that time. And I think what we've learned, I think we can extrapolate from social media, is that social media itself technically isn't harmful, but then like the content and what kids see and how they absorb it can affect how their brain is wired.
Yep.
Right? And so my advice is, I think everybody has to understand AI. I think we're all trying to learn it and know how the models work and like really have that inner understanding. So I think some exposure is going to it has to be, but it's a balance, right? It's always been a balance. And I think whatever we can do to have a balance is great. So also touch grass. Also
if you don't have grass, touch a rock.
Yes, right. Go outside, walk the dog, breathe in, look up, look at the sky. Maybe AI isn't going to teach us that, but that will be the skill we'll need. Right?
It's just what we were saying earlier, like the learning to learn. One of the big friction points that you add into kind of what they're consuming, don't just take things as that you have to just do a pause. Did what this person really said, or what this person is explaining, or this story, or does this picture match with this text? And like really try and take a pause and think about what you're seeing and what you're hearing. Just try and question it a little bit. It's my favorite prompt in any of these Gen I tools is, can you look at this again? Can you re-look at this? Because it's really easy to just be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And these people are just telling a fun story, or this, that, or the other thing, and taking a pause. And then do you need to do something about it? Do you need to turn it off, change the channel, swipe it, or whatever? That is the biggest thing, is just being consistent, back to consistency, about being critical thinkers in this world. Is this helping me solve? Is this worth my attention?
Something important I think that we should mention is really when you're thinking about AI too, it's important as a parent to understand the difference between, is this a cheat tool? Is this a learning supplement? So one of the things you can use ChatGPT for is to get the answers, or to make sure your homework is correct before you turn it in. Two different things. One of the things I think that's really interesting that Google is doing is with their notebook product is really building a product for people to study and learn. And so it's really kind of like AI just isn't AI, right? There are these different pockets, and companies are building different products for different use cases. So I think that's really important as a parent if you're really thinking about, and you have things like the Alpha School, which has just come to San Francisco. And the idea is that AI can catch kids up and be a great teacher, and kids can learn everything they need in 2 hours a day with one-on-one, this amazing tutorial experience. I'm oversimplifying. And then, so they're there is a kind of interesting area here for the idea of AI, but it's important to know that all AI isn't the same. And then the other thing, something that I think is really interesting that I heard recently on a Hard Fork podcast, which is New York Times journalist.
Not as good as 3reate.
Not as good as 3reate, but there was an idea like the digital divide, there will be an AI divide. So people who have the free model versus people who have the paid model and who can experience and work with AI on full force. So a lot to think about as a parent. And kids don't like it because some kids don't like it because of the effect on the environment. So I also think that's really interesting. So
wait till they learn about transportation.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I don't disagree on the environmental impacts of AI, but it's so proportionally overblown from our current society. Yeah, it's a huge additive, but like you drove to that meeting to complain about the AI. It's much more nuanced than a lot of people realize. Yes, and everything with AI is hard because we've been saying AI this whole time, but AI is this massive field of study. Suggests to parents that any sort of thing claiming to be AI with an internet connection should probably be avoided as some sort of a toy. If it reports to have AI and it works without the internet, it's maybe some kind of local system. It's probably not really like generative AI. Maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. But any sort of generative AI toy that connects to the internet is never going to be controllable or safe, frankly.
Yeah. Don't have
nothing's
oversight.
foolproof, but
you
can, if you're interacting with some sort of and I know there's been a couple toys out there already who have called back to the cloud and told the kid to do all sorts of crazy stuff like that's not fixable, frankly. I think Microsoft just put out a paper like 2 days ago about the math is cooked. Like it will never be predictable. It will never be controllable. Hallucinations are real. They will be a part of generative AI forever. Don't at me.
Yeah. One of the top uses apparently for these is to talk to for therapy and
young people specifically.
Yes.
Old people still do it.
I've heard questions brought up. Should I ask AI about this problem I'm having with my friends type of thing? And it's like, what? It is very scary.
Every new technology is always met with, it's going to destroy humanity because it's disrupting radio, TV, car, the wheel, buttons, zippers. There's still a human broadcasting. You can choose what you're listening to. You can talk about persuasion, manipulation, all this other kind of stuff. But most humans figure that out and sort it as you grow up. But when you're putting AI in front of children specifically, we have no data on how that's going to change their developmental behavior. Social media has cooked children as far as I'm concerned. I think we're all old enough to know the world before social media and probably had seen it rise. Such a unique group of people because the people older than us don't understand the computer at all. And then the people younger than us have no idea what the world is like without it. And sure, you can turn it off and go to a cabin in the woods and not interact with the internet. But the way that your brain has formed with social media is now an adaptation of humanity, for better or worse.
Yeah.
I'm deeply concerned with how AI will change children.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that as my ominous warning to the world. It's funny, one more little tangent, I guess. I do have friends who will not let their child play with anything that has a power source.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there's some really cool fucking toys that don't have power sources.
No, yeah.
Speaking from
Creativity.
experience playing with her.
Yeah.
And they're hard. She's got some puzzle games that I was trying to help her with. And I'm like, this is hard. And she's 3 and crushing me on it. So
how this is changing society. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the AX, where you were saying that is one of those context things of who am I talking to, how much they have knowledge of the world to be able to, and it's talk to me like I'm a 13-year-old who speaks English in, this demo, it is a very huge area of needing a lot of focus. Because that is what it is. It's the UX, it's the AX, it's how that user interacts with these systems and can ask the right questions and knows which questions to ask too.
One thing I always like to ask folks, is there something that I didn't ask that I should have? And I know this is a weird kind of 3 people conversation. It's not weird, but it's just different for the podcast. So I guess, Robyn, is there anything that you're like, gee, we didn't really talk about this, or why didn't you ask this, you dummy?
Just put me right on the spot,
huh? I do that.
For the first one. I don't know if it was really not so much a question, but I think AI is a tool. It's a tool. And one thing that we can think about is when you put a tool in the hands of for the good, it turns out for the good. And when you put it in the hands of for the evil, that's what happens. And so as a society, as communities, as parents, as workers, we can think about that in terms of how do we want to advance our society when we're using AI. And that's a choice that we can make every day.
I love that.
And just to build off that, like we were saying earlier, it's all a learning time for everybody. And it's like how proactive you want to be in this, like you were just saying, reshaping of not only society, but how humans are wired for millions of years. And this is one of those era-changing shifts that you can be proactive in and really take action in your own area, but put yourself out there and really immerse. I mean, I'm experimenting vibe coding. It's very scary. Like, I'm working on this with my kids. I'm trying to try these things. It's definitely extra work, but it's worth it.
It's an investment. It's an yeah, but it pays off. It will pay off. Right?
It's never been easier to learn. Knowing how to learn is still hard, and you still have to put in the time and work. But between watching like YouTube videos and asking AI stuff, like vibe coding, sure, the learning opportunity is why did you make these decisions? Yeah. How would I change this to do X? Or I want to do X. How does this change? It's how you approach using the tool. And Robyn, to your point, like if everything is, consequences, and generally the benefits outweigh the consequences, but if everybody is just using it to cheat on their school exam, no one's going to learn anything.
Yeah.
So I'll link to the article and is it Women Times
they
AI?
Say Women X AI. Yeah.
Women X AI. I'll link to that. And then obviously how people can get in contact with you. But is there anything you want to share with folks that you're really finding awesome? It can be related to AI tech. It could be something totally separate. I always love to just try to expose people to things they might not have considered.
Mine is related to AI. I think that one thing, we touched on this a little bit in terms of like how AI strategies are working or not working. One thing everyone can do on the move, like up the value chain, keep your job, is a book that's called Your AI Survival Guide. And the author is this woman named Sol Rashidi, and she really breaks down like how do you figure out what kind of company you are in terms of like your tech stack, maturation, and all that sort of stuff, and then what are the strategies that are available. And then not that you're sitting at the table and making the decision, but you can just bring value to every conversation about maybe this isn't working because, or then you're just informed. You're not a victim of AI, right? And the company forcing you to do this or that, and they're all idiots. Or like right now, all of a sudden you have agency and you have a way to speak intelligently and add value to your day to day.
That's on my list.
I actually just downloaded the audiobook for that last night because I'm like, okay, I got to start this. You've been recommending it. One thing that I've been very interested in, the policy aspect of this, which is inching forward in different areas and just learning what is your local, your state, I know things have somewhat gone to federal, but really learning what is being done about policy and what's working and not. I know Utah is another place, Illinois, and what is being done about age gating and things to do with like social media or device, and really being proactive in your area, writing your senators and your representatives and things like that about, because I've gone down that dark rabbit hole of, this is going to take over the world, a Terminator, whatever, Skynet situation. But I always have to stop, reframe. This can be positive. This can be, but I also need to be part of that too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks to you both for coming on and chatting. And I love this one. And I love the different format with multiple guests. So I appreciate you both working through that whole new experience for me as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
You can find us at 3reate.com. It's like the word create, but with a 3 instead of the C. As always, we encourage you to listen, watch, do. We'll see you next time. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/3reate or at ko-fi.com/3reate. Thanks for listening.